Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video, and this is a paid request for Jonathan. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, movie reviews, re-reviews, random thoughts, streams, commentaries, tier list rankings, video game playthroughs, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. I do have a CashApp as well. Links are down below in the info box, and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. And this is for Truth and Treason from 2025, which took me a bit to get to this. Number one, had a bit of request before this yet too, but also number two, bit of a horror movie to watch because of the subject matter, but it does tell a story that based on truth, which is a bit interesting. Where way back when you had this guy named Helmuth Hübener, I'm sure I'm butchering his name. But he was a kid. He was a teenager. And when he was about 16 or so years old, 15, 16, him and his buddies are in Germany. It's under Adolf Hitler rule. And of course, during that time, they're led to believe, like everybody else, that Hitler, what he's doing is right, and propaganda. And they're told one thing when the other is actually happening. And at the beginning of the movie, you see four friends jump into the water, enjoying their life. And I don't know how much of this they exaggerated for the movie and how much of it is added. Because a lot of times when they do movies based on a true story, they'll add their own little touches here and there. So I'm not an expert on the source material, but Hübener did exist. What you come to find out is that him and some friends had listened to a radio, and radio was a big no-no, especially more so listening to the BBC or any of the sort that could get you in deep, deep shit. And he was hearing that, wait a minute, what they're telling us is very different from what this other country is telling us. Also, he didn't like the idea that he would go to church and now there's signs saying ban Jewish people. Now in the movie, there's a buddy of his who gets banned and kicked off too, and then eventually is taken to Auschwitz. And he must have existed because they even show a photo of the real person as well as the actor portraying him. And at the end they mention about how he went to Auschwitz and what happened to him. What happened to, sadly, millions and millions of people who were Jewish. And, you know, all that stuff is what I mean why this is a tough... Once in a while I do get a request for something of this nature. I forget what it was. I'm bad with titles. The movie that came out a few years ago where there's like a German camp, but we never really see the German camp. We're just hearing and listening to the horror while one of the officers and his family live near it. God, I forget what the hell it was called. That don't bug me. The Zone of Interest. Okay, yeah, The Zone of Interest. You know, films of that nature I don't go out of my way to watch because of just how... But at the same time, it is important stories to tell. For like, this kid was against what happened to his friend. His Jewish friend was against the propaganda, was against what was happening, and decided to take a stand. So what he would do is, at least the way the movie tells it, there's these red paper. He's an intern at this place. He has the ability to use a typewriter and prints out the truth, the stuff that he hears on the BBC radio about what's really going on and how Hitler really is. Him and his other friends put these red pamphlets with this information, random news mailboxes, on walls, everywhere else, so that people could find them. And the idea is We don't be true to our convictions. If one finds it, maybe they pass it to another. And yeah, maybe some will throw it away, but some may not, and they'll pass it to another, and they'll pass it to another, and they'll pass it to another. And then who knows what could happen. And so they distribute this anti-Hitler stuff. One buddy's not really sure on doing it, but then he gets beaten up by some of these other similar age, but more for the Nazi assholes. And this guy's like, fuck this. And he decides to put the stuff in the mailboxes. I like that little moment, kind of that. He's unsure, he's afraid, but once he gets beaten up by these assholes, he's like, fuck you. I like that little moment. And I do think the acting is pretty good. I thought the lead... I want to get the names because I do think they did a good job. And I should have written down, but I'm so terrible with names. Ewan Horrocks, I thought he did a good job as the teen. And then you had Rupert Evans, who was in the first Hellboy movie. He plays an officer who is trying to find who's distributing these pamphlets. And he's an interesting character because he is gung-ho about the state, about his country. But at the same time, you see from time to time he has doubts about what he's doing. He has doubts. On one hand, he'll do stuff like he'll torture someone, fuck with their fingers, their fingernails and stuff. But at the same time, we'll have doubts about, so he's just a guy who just decides to go for his country and his patriotism over his consciousness, and then later on realizes that, his consciousness may be, it's his moral. He questions his morals. He questions what he's doing. I thought the actor did a pretty good job in a role that's a bit hard to do. And spoilers, eventually they're caught. Someone the kid knows realizes, wait a minute, he had this typewriter and the kid didn't clean it up correctly one day. It leads to him being caught, tortured. This woman that he liked, she gets tortured, so he eventually gives up his two friends. His two friends get a lesser punishment, where our lead gets a death sentence. And he is the youngest guy who is against the Nazis to get a death sentence. At 17 years old, he got beheaded with the guillotine. And it goes through the things you expect. Again, him getting beaten up and people, the officers not caring, the court ruling, and the lead giving this speech trying to inspire, but it doesn't matter. He gets found guilty anyway. Last moment he has with his friends where he asks them, please don't forget about me. All that stuff. Again, it's not one of those films that is a fun film. It's not meant to be. There's a section in the film that they show a little bit of the love story between this kid and this girl, the lead character of this girl. I didn't really care about the love story. I thought it was pretty meh. It didn't do anything for me. I don't even think at the end of the film they mentioned what happened to her. They mentioned what happened to his two friends, and that the Jewish friend was killed in Auschwitz. But I could be wrong, but I don't think they mentioned what happened to her. Unless something happened to her in the movie and it completely bypassed my head. It might have, because that's when the movie was kind of not being as interesting to me. So maybe something else happened to her, but anyway. But I mean, it's one of those movies where it definitely makes you think about the convictions and the courage that one would have in going through that situation where you are very young, I mean, hell, I'm twice his age. More so, actually. But yeah, I mean, this is a guy that didn't even make it to 20 years old because he could have just shut his mouth. He could have just kept going, told the line. He didn't. I don't know how much difference he made. I don't know how much difference he... Because, for example, I had never heard of him before until I got this request. I don't know how many people did. And again, what did he accomplish in the long run? I don't know if he accomplished anything in the long run. I don't know. For those who are more into German history, who perhaps are Germans or have a history of knowing about their parents or grandparents, did it affect anything during that time? I don't know. And it's like, on one hand, people could ask, well, does that matter? I mean, it's someone who stood up for their beliefs despite the harsh penalty that they had. So it does show conviction and courage at the very least. That's the one that Yun had. And more courage than me, I'll say that. More courage than me. I mean, I could say, yes, I would do it, but it's one thing to say, it's another thing to actually do it. That it's a lot harder than you would think. Again, it's easier to say it when your life ain't on the line, you know what I mean? And it definitely gives you pause because, you know, our lives go up and down, our lives get complicated, our lives go through its sharp twists and turns. By the end, just imagine, you know, you're 16 years old and these choices you have to make, friends, you know, going off to horrible places that you may never see them again because they'll be dead. And what do you do? How far do you go? I mean, for me, God, that would have been, what, the year for me, 2000? At that time, hell, I'm just worried about getting through high school and what movie is coming out. And I guess in a weird way, despite the ups and downs, there's that part of me that's happy of where I'm at now in history, where I'm at now in life, where I'm at now. That, yeah, it could always be better for everybody. It could always be better. It could always be worse too. But part of me's like, I'm glad I wasn't this kid. I'm glad I never had to make that choice. I'm glad I never had to make that decision. And again, would I have been able to do it? I'd probably be more like, I want to make sure something actually happens because of this. And again, I don't know if anything did truly occur because of what he did. This is probably a story that was hidden for a while, and I'm sure the higher-ups didn't want that story out there because they didn't want any copycats or anyone. Or just maybe they did because, hey, if you do this, this is your punishment. But then they probably reworked it and reworded it in a way that makes them look better and make him look worse. But it definitely gives some food for thought. And yeah, I think the guy who played the lead teen and the guy who plays the officer, Rupert Evans, they did well. It's a bit lengthy. It's about 2 hours long. Again, the love story aspect, I didn't feel anything for it. I mean, if that happened, it happened, okay, but I didn't really feel it was needed in this. I didn't really feel it. I guess other than it's what motivates him to have to give up his two friends. But again, the girl, I don't remember much after that of anything. That's why I'm now questioning. I don't think they killed her. Because if they did, he wanted to give his two friends up, and they would just let her go. So I'm like, well, what did happen to her? Like, how come at the end they didn't mention her name and where she went off to and such? Well, that wasn't important. Well, she was important enough to have a subsection of the story. There are moments, I wish there were a few more moments of Rupert Evans really reflecting on his choices that I think could have made that character work even better. Again, just more moments of him, again, reflecting on this person. Maybe, like, he tortured this person, then maybe he's, like, washing his hands, and then realize he can't wash the blood off, or he did, but he still feels it on there. Again, just more moments of either guilt or more, to repeat, reflective moments. I would have appreciated that. It's not badly filmed. The costumes, the look of the film seem appropriate. A weird thing they did, though, which it took me a bit to get used to, all these characters are supposed to be German, but everyone's speaking in British accents. Everybody. I don't know if there was anyone with a German accent. Like, everybody's British, speaking British accents. And I'm like, sometimes I forget that I'm watching German people. Like, these are supposed to be German characters because everyone has a British accent. I'm like, does that really need to be a thing nowadays? That we can't handle people speaking German and having subtitles? I mean, this is how they kind of did stuff back in the day to make it more palatable for a wider audience. But a wide audience, I don't see a wide audience going to see this film. And then the people who are into the story, they don't be like, huh? How come everyone's speaking British? Oh, okay. It's because of, there was their choice. I mean, they're supposed to be German, but they're speaking British. It's a bit off. I'm not sure about that decision. I thought that was a bit weird. But with that said, I did not mind the film. I would never see the film again, but it's definitely worth the watch. At the very least, to know a bit about this story and to witness at least a little bit of the courage that this kid went through. I think his two buddies had said one was it 5 years or less in jail. One, I think, like, was put into the military, and then soon was caught and was in a Russian POW camp. It then did say that the two did make it out and stay friends for the rest of their lives. I don't know how old they lived to, but I guess eventually they were able to get through it. I'm guessing the Rupert Evans character they made up for the movie to have an officer that's sympathetic. He's doing terrible things, but at the same time, again, he's this morally kind of pulled in different directions type of character. So I think he was created for the film, I believe. So I guess, some would wonder or ask, do you need that? Did you not need that? I mean, again, I thought the actor did a good job, and like I said, it could have used a bit more scenes of him thinking about stuff, but I didn't mind it. It was a good performance, but some may wonder, like I said, did you really need that? But overall, if you're into that type of film, that period of World War II, if you've heard of the name or the idea interests you, is it worth the watch? Sure. So take that for you will. With that said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.